California coast at Big Sur is a waking dream, and it is here that the imagination of the Western mind reaches a kind of culmination of possibilities. Today we're going to meet Robert Moss. Robert is a pioneer in active dreaming, a synthesis of shamanism and modern dream work. Robert has said, "The big story is hunting for someone to tell it." And this is what Robert is teaching in a workshop here at Esalen on the Big Sur coast. He says, "Dreaming is waking up to sources of guidance, healing, and creativity beyond the reach of the everyday mind." I met with Robert here at the Big Yurt at Esalen with a long list of questions about dreams, coincidences, and the imagination.
Robert, thank you for inviting me here to Esalen to talk about the dream work that you're doing here.
Good to be dreaming with you here, Mel.
Okay, thank you. Robert, you said that you've defined magic as the art of reaching into a deeper order of reality and bringing gifts through into this physical world.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what you're doing here at Esalen, isn't it?
It is. It's what we're doing here. We're reaching into sources of healing, energy, guidance for everyday life, and we're doing it in a magical setting. But we can do this every day of our lives. We don't have to be at Esalen to do this. We can learn through paying more attention to our dreams and through taking action to embody the energy of our dreams. We can learn a road of practical magic for everyday life.
Considering the definition that you've given us, do you ever consider yourself to be a magician?
I like to think of myself as a magician in a sense in which one of the many Merlins is a magician. There's a Merlin who, according to legend, travels everywhere with an apple orchard of golden and silver apples. And he picks an apple at a time and gives it to you. And when you bite into the apple, you receive a story that changes your life. The gift of the apple is a story which will juice you up, put you in touch with the well springs of your purpose in life, and thereby change you. I'm a magician in that sense, that I help people to find the stories they can live by better.
So in a way, you're facilitating the journey that Joseph Campbell talked about. You're facilitating the hero's journey into non-ordinary states of consciousness.
Oh yes, I think we're all embarked on a journey, and we do better when we remember its mythic depth. The depth. In that sense, Joe Campbell was absolutely right. He was also right when he said that healing is what happens when we move beyond suffering into myth. I'm paraphrasing. A lot of what I do is about finding the mythic content of our own lives, finding the bigger story. In my native Australia, the Aborigines say, the big stories are hunting the right people to tell them, like predators in the bush, stalking and sniffing, looking for the right person to jump on in order to carry them. And I notice that when we are jumped on by the bigger story, we do better. We have courage on the dullest days. So that's a lot of what a workshop like this at Esalen or my daily life as a teacher is about, helping people to remember, to tell, and to live their bigger and braver stories.
And what does that feel like when you sense that the bigger story is looking for you to tell it? How does it feel?
It's exciting. I mean, some of us run away. You know, the little self is forever terrified of the big self. What is most alien to us is not aliens who come out of UFOs, but the larger self, compared to which the everyday ego is a very limited vehicle. So we can be frightened, we can be scared. And in dreams, people running away from monsters or intruders at the door are often running away from their own power that is hunting them. We do that in waking situations as well. So it can be scary to be pursued by a bigger story, but believe me, when you've been caught by your bigger story, life is different and it is better.
How is it different?
Well, you live with a sense of purpose and courage that might otherwise be lacking. You can put up with the ups and downs of everyday life and its setbacks in the knowledge that there is a deeper drama involved. You have the sense of being part of a deeper game, and that is a source of courage.
Right. Now, in everyday life, people, this could be completely alien to them. And for many people, dreams are just kind of the detritus of the mind. So what for you is a dream? What is your definition of a dream?
Dreaming is waking up. You know, most of us, when we think about dreams at all, other than the advertising industry sense of dreams, your dream car, your dream house, dream is the most popular word for the advertising industry and always has been. When we think about dreams in the other sense, we usually think about sleep dreams. And indeed, we have big, important experiences during sleep, They can be big or they can be small, they can be routine processing, they can be comments on how we ate last night, or they can be windows into a deeper world. But dreaming is fundamentally about waking up, Mel. You see, in waking life, we're like sleepwalkers very often. We're doing what people tell us we should be doing. We're following a schedule. We're trying to fit in with people's expectations. Dreaming, for me, is waking up. You can waking up to a deeper order of reality and purpose. You can do that in the night, in a sleep dream that rattles you or shakes you awake to the bigger story. You can do it through the play of meaningful coincidence or synchronicity in waking life. You can do it when something stops you short, an accident or an illness, and makes you re-evaluate everything. You can do it in the way of the shaman, journeying into a deeper reality, as we do at Essel and other places where I lead workshops. So all of this for me is about waking up to the world behind the world, where from my point of view our lives have their origin, their meaning and their purpose.
You said that getting in touch with dreams is one way of remembering your fundamental purpose. There's a big difference in life between people who have a sense of a larger purpose and those who do not. Now, you said remembering your fundamental purpose. Remembering is somehow key for me. What do you mean by remembering?
When I was a kid in Australia, one of the people who turned up in my dream life, in my imaginal life, was a radiant young man from the eastern edge of the Mediterranean who spoke to me in Greek, in the difficult Greek of the Neoplatonist philosophers, and he told me, as a teenager, that all true knowledge is anamnesis. This difficult word, which we have in English too, means literally remembering, but it means remembering in a special sense. It means remembering the knowledge that belonged to us on the level of soul and spirit before we came into the body in this world. In my personal mythology, and it might work for all of us, I like to believe that we have a life contract, that we agreed to certain conditions for this life, certain challenges, certain assignments for this life before we came here. I find it empowering to indulge that thought. For me, it's a reality that I live by, the understanding that I came here with a contract. One of the things we do in my depth workshops is we give people the opportunity of discovering experientially whether there's something like that for them, a life contract, a set of conditions, a set of assignments which they might have agreed to before they came into this world.
You're talking about Platonic ideas, that there is perhaps we can say an ideal world or a mythical world from which we came. If something like that is so, why would we make a contract to come here to do specific tasks?
That's a very good question. And it's probably to be answered on an individual basis, one by one by one by one by one. Probably within the larger picture, I mean, we make an agreement to come into this world to be part of a process of creation. I mean, if you believe in God, why does God create a universe in the first place if he or she is sufficient unto himself? It sounds like Platonism. It's also the version of the primal societies, the primal shamanic cultures. In the Australian Aboriginal culture, for example, everything starts in the dream time. The dream time is not the basement of the personal subconscious that Western shrinks talk about. The dream time is the place which is at the origin of all the events and situations of waking life. It is a place outside time. It is the all at once, Aboriginal elders say. And that's where we come from, and that's where we can return to through our personal dreams. One of the things the Aboriginal shamans teach about dreaming is this: our personal dreams can be doorways to the dream time, to that deeper reality, and when we go there we can recover meaning and purpose. So one of the things that I teach as a Western teacher is our personal dreams can take us to some very interesting places in non-ordinary reality from which we can draw all sorts of gifts.
You know, I've interviewed several people who've had near-death experiences, and when they go to the other side, they tell me that they remember their purpose. They remember the contracts they've made. But there's something about coming back to a three-dimensional world that causes them to forget. One, why do they forget? And two, what value is their contract if they can't remember what it is?
Those are excellent questions. I mean, humans are forgetful animals. We forget, we remember, we forget, we remember. It's a recurring story. The near-death experience is certainly an eye-opener for many people. I had experiences which today we would call near-death experiences as a child. In one of them, when I left my body under emergency appendectomy in St. Andrew's Hospital in Melbourne, I found myself drawn into a world within this world, it seemed, where I seemed to live a whole life amongst a different set of people altogether. And then at death in that other life was back in the body of a terrified 9-year-old boy in a Melbourne hospital. I didn't forget that, Mel. However, it was difficult knowledge to live with. as a kid in a very conservative period in Australian history in a military family where you didn't really talk about this guy. Oh, poor kid, it's the hallucination, it's the medication, isn't it? The hallucinations. We live in a miasma of conditions often in this world, which makes it very difficult to remember things of fundamental importance. One of the ways we are helped to recall what matters is our dreams bring us back. Dreams and synchronicity, or meaningful coincidence. I spend as much time tracking the symbols and synchronicities of the world around me as I do with sleep dreams. These are two excellent resources we have for beginning to remember that there might be a deeper logic to events than the obvious one.
Yeah. So you're saying that dreams help us remember what we may have forgotten?
Dreams help us to remember what we may have forgotten. You know, cross-culturally, and I'm a historian as well as everything else. I started out as a professor of history. Cross-culturally, most human societies until recent times have valued dreams and dreaming for three reasons beyond all others. First of all, dreams show us the future. They've looked to dreams for knowledge of what will come, and for early advisories on situations you could improve if you took appropriate action. So it's not just about prophecy, it's about getting a glimpse of the future you can work with, a sort of radar that looks at the future. Secondly, most human cultures have looked at dreams as sources of medicine in the sense that dreams diagnose what's going on in the body. This is ancient understanding and modern understanding amongst physicians who are alert to this. Dreams give us images for self-healing and so on. And thirdly, dreams give us direct access to the sacred. They give us a way of talking to the god or goddess we can talk to. They give us a way of accessing the world of the ancestors and of wise teachers. This is common human understanding cross-culturally for as long as we've been on the planet. It went out of style amongst our talking classes, as they call them in Britain, but it's coming back. We need it. Ordinary people understand these things, actually.
Right. You said that dreams show us the future. Are you saying that the future is fixed, or are you saying that the dream can show us possible futures?
The key thing to understand about our relationship with the future is that any future we can foresee, we can possibly change. In other words, our visions of the future, whether they come through dreams or intuition, are often of possible futures that, and seeing that information might give us the option of changing things so that we have a better outcome if we can figure out how to read the information correctly and then how to act on it. I am certain in my own mind I would not be talking to you today if I had not used information on 3 possibly fatal car accidents to escape those situations on the road. I mean, I can't prove that to the satisfaction of science if it requires repeatable laboratory experiments, but I am darn sure that I would not have survived those 3 encounters on the road had I not paid attention to those dreams. So I look at dreams of the future as often rehearsals for a possible future. If we don't like what's going on in that possible future, let's look at how to change it. One of the things I do with my own dreams is I ask myself, every time I remember one, I remember quite a few and I write them down, I say, well, where did my dream self go last night? And did it come out well? And if not, what am I going to do about it? And that's something everybody can learn to do. As a matter of fact, once you've had one single experience of dreaming an event before it happens, you'll have enough personal first-hand information to goad you forward to look at dreams this way. As I say, this has been vital survival information for most human cultures. Indigenous people living on the edge of starvation sometimes have looked to their dreamers to find out where the game animals will be herded, where the food could be found next week, and operated that way.
Right. I'd like to go back a bit to this near-death experience you had when you were 9, I think?
Right.
You had the appendectomy?
Right.
After you had this experience, was there anything in your environment that gave you comfort, that gave you confirmation?
The first person I met who could give me real validation and confirmation of experiences like this was an Aboriginal boy I knew when we were living in Queensland. And I'd tell him some of my experiences, and he'd say, oh yeah, we do that. You know, we go sick, we go to another place, we get well, we come back. Or, oh yeah, my uncle dreams like that. He dreams that people are sending him messages and he just picks up his stuff and he walks across the whole state without making a phone call because he knows that someone's looking for him and he goes and does it. So I heard from an Aboriginal boy from the First Peoples of my native country that for them there's nothing exotic about thinking that we can go to other worlds, to realities beyond the ordinary one in our dreams, that we can dream the future and that we can receive telepathic messages and so on. So that was some confirmation. Of course, in a very conservative era in my kind of family, it was not really acceptable to hang out with Aborigines. Right. So there was that problem of getting by. So I had to lay fairly low in adult society at that time.
Now, you've had intense dream experiences and you've had a near-death experience.
Yes.
Can you tell me something about the quality of these two experiences. Can you say that they are radically different, the dream experience and the near-death experience?
Well, something like a near-death experience is certainly going to shake you awake. I think I was already awake when I had that particular experience. But let me say this, in terms of being able to travel to a world beyond the obvious one, you can learn to do that without having the extremity of a near-death experience. I mean, in a workshop like this, I'm teaching people how to travel to places of healing, learning, initiation, in non-ordinary reality, in the way that shamans, mystics, and creators have always wanted to go there. We use gee-whiz technology. We use monotonous, heartbeat, shamanic drumming. To power the journey, we use focused intention, the desire to go somewhere really interesting, have encounters with sacred teachers, and bring back gifts. This is the kind of thing that will empower us. We use our intention, for example, to explore the afterlife firsthand. Go there firsthand and bring back knowledge. This is something humans have always been interested in. Our knowledge of the soul, our very belief in the soul, our geographies of the afterlife all come from dreams, visions, and what we could now call near-death experiences. And there's a continuity between the spectrum of experience. I repeat, you don't have to have the extremity of the near-death experience in order to learn about these things firsthand. If you learn a way of focusing and you have a form of fuel or power, like the shamanic drumming in the case of my workshops, to fuel the journey, you can learn to do these things safely, consciously, and bring back first-hand knowledge of the things that humans have most wanted to know from time immemorial.
Are you saying that you can intentionally have contact with the departed through dreams?
Our contact with the departed is natural and frequent through dreams, and there are three reasons. There's nothing really weird or supernatural about it. It might be beyond our ordinary range of expectation, but lots of people experience it. The reason why, particularly in dreams, contact with the departed is natural and indeed frequent, first of all, the departed might still be around. They might not have moved on. They might be lost, they might be stuck, they might be confused, they might be addicted. They might think that we are clueless and need help from us, so they've stayed, which we may be. So they may have stayed around to look after us. Number two, the departed come visiting, especially in dreams, for all the reasons we call on each other and then some. They come for love, they come for forgiveness, they come for updates on the family, they come to give us messages, they come to play family counselors, wanted or unwanted, sometimes very helpfully. And thirdly, Mel, you know, in our dreams, we travel to the realm where the departed are at home. We travel into the afterlife. We actually get first-hand knowledge of how things are in the afterlife. These are three natural characteristics of dreaming, that we encounter the departed in all three ways. And it's going on in the nightly lives of millions upon millions of people, all the time.
Where does the dream take place?
Well, that's a very good question. The dream might be taking place in your personal psyche. It might be taking place in what Jungians call the collective unconscious. It might be taking place in a counterpart reality very close to the physical, where you're having social interaction with other dreamers. It might be taking place in other orders of reality, including the afterlife and what I like to call the imaginal realm, the realm of true imagination, where there are palaces, temples, schools, and so on. It might be taking place, Mel, in all those hidden dimensions of reality that superstring theorists talk about. You know, those 6 or 7 hidden dimensions of physical reality. All the above. It might be taking place in parallel universes. There are many styles of dreaming, many forms of dream journey, and we need to look very carefully at each dream to see what is going on here. Is this simply a commentary from the body on how you ate last night? Is it routine mental processing? It might be. Not all dreams are important. Not all dreams are interesting. Or is it a journey in which you traveled into the future? Or is it an adventure in which you went to Atlantis? Or a hidden dimension of the real? It could be all the above and then some.
In metaphysics, I've heard people say that what separates the other world from this is a veil. And I remember that Aldous Huxley once said that the brain is a reducing valve. Or he said that, you know, originally we were all omniscient, and in order to cope in a three-dimensional world, the brain has to reduce out the infinite number of possibilities, this expanded awareness, so that we can live and function in a three-dimensional world. What I'm concerned about is, can you tell us something about what separates us from that which we are not aware of here? Can you talk to us a bit about what in metaphysics has been called the veil?
Well, the veil is a very good word. It's an ancient word. You know, in ancient Egypt, there was a temple of the veil or the net. It was a temple of Neith, who is the goddess who personifies the veil or the net, personifying exactly that divide, that curtain, that screen between our ordinary faculties of perception and a deeper perception. And such a veil is always essential because we need to be ready to understand and to cope with what lies on the other side of it. So you don't actually ordinarily get through the veil without being prepared for the transit in some way. And often there are fierce dwellers at the threshold to guard the portal of entering the deeper realities so that you are tested and ready for what you will encounter there. It's there in fairy tale, it's there in folklore, it's there in legend. You know, in the Celtic version, the fairies put, or the little people, or the Sidhe, put dewdrops on your eyelids, or something like that, to change your sight, so that you can see in a world where nothing makes rational sense, and three-dimensional rules do not apply. So yes, I mean, there is a veil or a screen, and there are many of them. You go to one level of non-ordinary reality, and you'll find that there are veils or screens and tests and initiations required to take you to another one. So there are mechanisms in place here to delay our entry into certain levels of consciousness until we are ready. When we kick those aside by a certain kind of drug experience, for example, or through some kind of psychotic break, we are in trouble, because then we are in danger of drowning in the waters where the shaman or the mystic or the creator swims. And that's the problem. So Aldous Huxley was quite right about the brain as a reducing mechanism, and it goes beyond that. I mean, we need to be ready. We need to be ready for encounters with the larger reality.
So you're saying that just by deciding to get in contact with the larger reality by perhaps taking a psychedelic drug, when we haven't taken proper precautions, that can be dangerous.
I'm not an enthusiast for psychedelic drugs or hallucinogenics. I know they're very widespread in Western culture. Some of my friends are advocates, and I think use them probably with proper care and as part of a practice. I'm not enthusiastic about it. I think that those things have cut a swathe through the Western consciousness and left too many fried brain cells and left too many people in experiences for which they were not adequately prepared or grounded. When I teach people, I teach them that we manufacture our own chemicals. We'll do everything with care. We'll do everything with preparation. And we'll do everything thoroughly grounded.
Right. Now, we're here in kind of an ideal environment here at Esalen, but outside of this environment, it might almost, you can almost say it could be geared up to preventing exploration of these deeper realities. So what do you see in so-called normal life that would prevent people from even considering that there is something beyond this reality that we consider normal?
We've had all sorts of inhibitors, we've had all sorts of consensual hallucinations that have delayed our recognition as a society that we have sources of support and guidance available in life through dreams and synchronicity that we need to draw upon. But actually, I find that people are hungry everywhere I go for access to these things. I teach a way of talking about these things to begin with, which makes it safe and interesting to discuss these experiences with almost anyone, and give each other feedback in a civilized way and guide each other towards action. We've lacked techniques like that. So actually in my typical life, although yes, I teach at Esalen, I teach some wonderful other places. I teach a place called the Hamlet of the Star in southern France. I mean, how about La Mode de l'Étoile? I teach at wonderful places, but I also spend a great deal of my time amongst ordinary people in rather ordinary situations, including inner cities, including the Midwest, teaching people how to draw on their dreams and on meaningful coincidences, tools for everyday living, survival tools, tools for getting you through, tools for finding the job, tools for making the right relationship or getting out of the wrong one. So I find that this is all everyday stuff. It's everyday magic.
When you use the tools of dreams, how do you help people interpret these dreams? I understand that for example, Freud essentially just told people what their dreams were.
Well, I won't tolerate that. I mean, central to my approach, I didn't invent this bit. This is the contribution of the American dream work movement to our understanding of dreams. A clinical psychiatrist called Monty Ullman, a great man in New York, came along and he said, look, stop asking me to tell you what your dreams mean. I'm going to say to you, if it were my dream, it would mean such and such to me. I will not lay down the law to you. And that's the way we should talk. That's the way I talk. That's the way I train people to talk. You tell me your dream, you tell me something from your life. I will not tell you what it means. Even if you beg me, I will not tell you what it means. I will say to you, Mel, if it were my dream or if it were my life, I would think about such and such. So I'll offer you an interpretation, but I do in such a way that I'm giving you your own power. You will decide at the end of the discussion what it means to you. I'll explore with you as a frequent flyer what it would mean from my point of view. I'll give you some suggestions. Then we've had that conversation. I won't just leave it as some form of words. I'll say to you, what action are you going to take? You're going to wear the color red. You're going to call him up. Are you going to go to your grandmother's grave? Are you going to do something else? You're going to go Googling that funny word. I'll come up with an action plan.
Yeah, okay. So you empower people to own their own dreams.
Absolutely. The dreams belong to the dreamers.
You've also said that a dream remembered is its own interpretation.
A dream fully remembered.
Fully remembered. What do you mean by that?
I mean by that when we discuss dreams, we're generally talking about only some bits and pieces from the fuller experience of the dream, just as if you go back from Esalen, you'll remember a few things about Esalen, but you will not have the full experience of the place, perhaps. When we talk about dreams, sometimes we're talking about just little bits and pieces. If we could be back inside the dream, fully back inside the dream, with the whole of the dream around us, we would know what it means without need for interpretation. So one thing I teach people to do is to go back inside a dream. I call it dream reentry. Put yourself right back consciously inside the dream space and see inside it what's going on.
How do you do that?
Well, the easiest way to do it is when you're in bed after waking up from a dream and the dream still has some juice for you. Stay in bed. Use your focused attention to propel yourself back into the dream space. Look around and go on with it if necessary. You might want to continue the dream. The dream might be unfinished. You might have to brave up to a danger. You might just want to enjoy yourself more. In a workshop, if somebody brings a dream they're interested in re-entering or remembering fully, we will use the drumming, we'll have some discussion, we'll use some focused attention. You know, what do you want to know about this dream? What would you like to do if you go back into the dream space and carry on with it? And then we'll send that person back inside the dream to have an adventure.
That sounds really unusual to me, that a person can be sent back into a dream that they have left maybe a day or two before.
They can do it 15 or 30 years after. I've seen people who have not remembered a dream for 30 years. This is no hype. I've seen someone who has not remembered a dream for 30 years go back into a dream of an intruder from 30 years ago, discover who the intruder was, and open up her life.
You've said dreaming gives us first-hand opportunities to explore the leading-edge theories of everything. What do you mean by that?
Well, let's take one example. Parallel universes are in. We've got Brian Greene's new book. We've got many worlds theory. We've got many scientific approaches to parallel universes. It seems that more physicists believe that we live right now in one of many, maybe infinite parallel universes than do not. How would we know about that in human experiential terms? How about this? You start recording your dreams, and you start noting the dreams in which you seem to find yourself again and again and again in a situation different from the present one. You're still with your former partner. You're still living in the former city. You're still in a different job. You're in a different reality altogether. Through dreaming, we might be able to track through the behavior of our dream cells what parallel universes are like on a human experiential level. I mean, that's one of many examples. You want to know about how quantum effects might work out on the human plane, how we might be actually plucking through the active observation one event track out of maybe infinite ones and the super possibilities. You start becoming more of a conscious dreamer and you'll find out how to do that.
I see.
I promise you.
Okay, I believe it.